Oh no, how am I gonna cover up the logo of the car? Should I just cover up a logo or the whole car? That was me like an hour ago trying to come up with a thumbnail for this video so people wouldn't really know what was the most sold car in the world last year. Then I realized I don't think most people know. Let me know in the chat room here if you're watching this in a replay. Let me know in the comment section if you were able to guess. But this is BYD. It's a Chinese company that makes cars mainly in China, little ones like this. They have a few other ones. But by the way, when I say electric cars, that includes plug-in hybrids, right? So just all cars with electric powertrain. And guess what? It's not a Tesla, it's not a Nissan, it's not a BMW, it's BYD. By the way, the second company is also BAIC base, however you want to pronounce it. That's number 2. Now, by the way, BYD sold what is about a little over 113,000 cars, mainly in China. Now, Tesla in the 3rd place with just a little over 100,000, I think 103,000 they sold in China, which by the way is impressive because Teslas are expensive cars and then they have to sell it in the country with a bit maybe of a lower average income. And then there's a 25% tariff. So that's pretty good. So Anton in the chat room says, makes sense that a Chinese manufacturer sells most in China with their incentives and import taxes. Yeah, so it's true. But you know, Tesla sells around the world. Actually, you know, Nissan, Tesla, BMW, all of them sell all around the world, including China. But these car manufacturers are selling just in China, which kind of, you know, makes you think, well, because they're, you know, trying to make cheaper cars for a certain market, are they going to be able to come up with a better technology to make cheaper cars, right? And therefore, once they kind of go global, because a lot of Chinese companies are trying to go global now, they will have an advantage in technology that's specifically created for making cheaper cars, right? I mean, I think that's what everyone's saying, like, yeah, sure, we'll buy an electric car, but it's too expensive, so forget about it. So maybe there's another story later today that I wanted to talk about that kind of goes right into the same concept, right? Tesla will sell 300,000 cars this year, says Sagafoto D. No, they will. I don't think they will. They might get close to that, but I don't think they will. We'll see. We will see. By the way, before I move on to the next story, which actually is about a semi-truck, let me remind you that this show and this channel is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Teslas. I'm a fan. I use them myself. If you want to get one for yours, there's a discount code in the description of this video. They've created specifically for us, so if you want to save a few bucks, go ahead and dive right in. All right, our next story is about Tesla, and yesterday we're talking about how DHL, one of the DHL executives, were talking about, you know, how they're looking forward to getting some of the test semi-trucks, and they think that it's really gonna you know, improve their margin and save a lot of money, as Tesla kind of always said that they were going to. But today, to follow up on that, I believe it was Electrek's Twitter post, Elon Musk tweeted back saying that, you know what, he actually wants to beat them. And I guess he said it all along, but he just wanted to kind of drive that home, that they're looking to beat the estimates that they were, you know, telling us about their specs. And, you know, the specs are already impressive, as you know, 300 and 500 mile range at a full load. I think it's 80,000 pounds, 60 miles of the speed, a 5% incline, and of course, you know, mega chargers and just so many other things that are absolutely amazing. But he's saying, you know what, we can do better. And, you know, a lot of people are obviously wondering, you know, and there was actually, the whole thing was in response to also the Mercedes executives talking about, you know, they just came up with their own truck with about 120 mile range, which is okay for the segment that they're targeting. But nevertheless, they decided to, you know, talk about Tesla for some reason, and they ended up kind of dissing Tesla, saying, you know what, we don't really believe that it's possible what Elon Musk is advertising. They say, well, you know, physics is physics, and, you know, we don't believe it's possible, but Elon Musk apparently believes it is. I believe him. So we're just gonna have to wait for a couple of years and see if that's true. Monkey Ride in the chat room says DHL are killing it with EVs. Other companies will lose out if they don't move fast. Absolutely. So that's not a bad reservation. Saga Photo D says 120,000 X and S's and 180,000 Model 3. So, you know, I hope so. I hope so. That's not a unrealistic expectation, but we just don't know if they're going to get to 180,000 Model 3s. But it does look that way if everything goes well, right? So fingers crossed. I'm just a little doubtful. When is Model Y coming out? Quasi, in the chat room, we don't really know. Tesla said that they're going to be announcing the production plans by the end of this year. People are expecting they're going to unveil it, but because they don't have a factory really to make it at, it will probably be at least a couple more years for the Model Y. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this video and this channel, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And I don't mean just in the chat room. Please just click on that little icon because it always helps the video to do well. Well, so you know how we're talking about the Chinese manufacturer BYD being the biggest sold of plug-in cars this year, here there was an auto show in India, and we were just maybe a few weeks ago I did a whole segment about electric cars in India, and it's a struggle because government doesn't have enough incentives, the infrastructure is not that good, but one of the bigger reasons, of course, is that people don't have as much money in other countries with an average income not being as high. I believe it's actually half of what Chinese average income is, to afford all these cars. Well, this year the Indian Auto Show, I believe it was in New Delhi, they had about 25 different electric car models. Mahindra, obviously, this is one of their cars, is one of the biggest manufacturers there. Of course, Tata Motors as well. But last year, I guess there were just like 4 or 5, and this year is 25. So that's definitely a good sign. But as I was talking earlier, they're obviously trying to target the market that only has limited amount of cash. I believe the target price is like $7,000. Remember, the cheapest car in the world is, I believe, being made in India for only like $2,000, which is insane, right? But $7,000 is basically a target price there. And I'm also wondering if those companies, if those Indian companies or companies targeting Indian market are going to make a car and concentrate on being effective in their cost and basically creating a cheap car. If once they achieve that, once they go globally, they'll be able to really beat Nissan and Chevy and other companies that are targeting, and maybe even Tesla targeting the people who want to have an electric car but just don't have enough money or have a budget. That's not always the same. Helmuth P in the chat room says, thoughts about the current X and S wait times? Will it stay that way, or is it just a spike? Well, I believe it is just a spike because a lot of people are tired of waiting for the Model 3, so they're opting out for Model S and Model X. But most importantly, it looks because the $7,500 incentives here, a tax credit here in the United States, is going to be going away, probably by the end of the year. So people are making sure that they're going to make use of it. So I'm not really that surprised. Usually it was about 1 to 2 months lead. Now it's about 4 to 5. So that kind of makes sense. We'll see what happens next year. I mean, obviously everybody expects, electric car sales to take a bit of a, I don't want to say dive, but, it will slow down obviously once the incentives are going away for Tesla and Nissan and other manufacturers. So that is, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable. All right, let me quickly talk about another successful launch that SpaceX had. The reason we're talking about it, that because this was Falcon 9 out of here in California, they have one scheduled for tomorrow. Not really sure if it's actually going to happen. They're having some, once again, double checks and a lot of other things they're dealing with, but they've launched they've launched a satellite for, I believe, security department for Spanish government, but for like 200 million. By the way, that's how SpaceX makes money. Governments and other private entities pay the money to launch stuff in space. But they also launch 2 of their own test satellites for the broadband internet. And not only Tesla might be, launching, they're hoping to launch hundreds more to just kind of start providing internet for consumers. But most importantly, people believe that the first customer would be Tesla. And Tesla car connectivity will be upgraded because they will be based on their own satellite technology, and obviously that will be an improvement. So that was another important thing. They would try to catch the nose cone. Didn't quite work out, but they still ended up recovering with like a giant mitt made out of a netting. So that was kind of cool. You can go to Elon's and SpaceX Twitter and check it out. So that was So that was pretty cool. Reach Online in chat room says, thinking of pulling the trigger on a used Model S. Better value, so there you go. Not the latest tech, but gets me into a decent range and quality EV. Well, it is a latest tech as far as your software is concerned. You'll always get the latest software with the Model S and Model X. So that's one of the amazing benefits of Tesla. All right, let's move on to comment of the day because we got a couple of them today. So let me go and read the first one. It comes from Adam. We were talking about the story about the Autopilot, the latest Autopilot upgrades being in the final beta stages, and therefore I believe if that comes out, it will finally catch up to the original version of Autopilot, and that was a long way coming. Adam says, you make it sound like only 2.5 Autopilot is getting updated. Think you forgot 2.0, which is the bigger fleet. That's true. I mean, to be honest with you, 2.5 second generation of Autopilot is what I meant. There is really no difference in software. There's like small hardware differences between 2.5 and 2.0. But yeah, basically I should have just said second generation Autopilot. So I'm not really sure which one fleet is bigger at this point. I think 2.5 might be just as big. And obviously that's been installed on Model 3s as well. There's also a little bit of a difference, like the inside camera. But nevertheless, I meant, I stand corrected if that confused people. So I didn't mean to do that. And another, I'm going to take a sip of water. Well, you guys go ahead and read. Go ahead, you can read it. Basically, Gregory, one of the regulars here in a live chat room and in the comment section, basically talks about, well, what happens with a Model 3 if something goes wrong with the screen, right? Whether it breaks or just some wiring goes off and you can't see anything because everything has to be controlled with that screen, which is a good question, but this is, I feel like, one of those issues where people are, oh, my software just froze. One of those things that people kind of give hard time to electric car manufacturers, including Tesla. Remember when a couple of Teslas caught on fire and everyone's like, oh my God, these cars blow up and everything, and they catch on fire. Meanwhile, like 50,000 fires are reported for gas cars every year. I believe this is one of those things. So yeah, if you at some point have a problem with your screen, then yeah, the car will be rendered useless and you're going to have to get a tow truck and fix that. Much like, what happens when a speedometer or your dashboard, breaks and you can't see what your speed is and everything. Now, I granted that, once that one thing breaks, everything breaks, but, same thing with your tires. You blow a tire or, I mean, there's just a lot of little things can go wrong with your car and does all the time. That renders your car useless and you have to go to the body shop or to, auto shop and fix it. So yeah, that's and Anton has a good point in the chat room. Says, has anyone here ever had a car where the screen stopped working? Does this happen? Well, so far nothing was reported. I believe there was, remember there was this one guy who got in an accident where the screen shattered and he couldn't get into the glove box. That's like the biggest extent of what we know of right now. Of course, there's only what 5,000-6,000 Model 3s on the road right now. Yeah, I don't anticipate it happening because I haven't heard these reports for Tesla. And by the way, most car manufacturers, especially luxury car manufacturers, do have the the main screen with the speedometer and other things, other controls, digital. So chances of that going out just as high, I think, as the chances for the Model 3 monitor going off. So I kind of feel that that's a wash, right? It's one of those things that break in your car. All right, guys, don't forget, tomorrow at 11 a.m., our usual time, we're going to hang out here. I'm going to review everything that happened this week, which once again, we had record number of stories this week. Not that I'm surprised. We're going to chat. We're going to hang out. I'm going to answer some of your questions and read some of your comments. So we will have a good time. I hope you have a great Saturday. See you tomorrow on Sunday. And remember to stay charged.